Hello, 5th grade, and welcome to our close reading lesson today. We are reading Museum, which is an excerpt from the book Honeybee. Today is day 1, so we will be looking for the main idea of this text. So in order to set ourselves up for a successful remote close reading lesson, there are a few things that we should have out with us to make sure we are focused, taking notes, and able to find that main idea of the text. So for materials, the first thing you should have is the close reading text itself, which for today is Museum from Honeybee. You should also have in front of you a piece of scratch paper and a pen or a pencil to take notes as we read. Similar to how you would have a piece of paper in math class to do your work, you want to have a blank piece of paper and something to write with to take notes as we go. And the third thing you want to make sure you have is a comfortable reading and writing space to make sure that you are able to focus and really concentrate on what we are reading. Speaking of concentrating on what we're reading, let's take a look at our strategic reading plan. Now, this is something that we worked with when we were in school, but it's definitely something that's going to help you read a text no matter where you are. So the first thing that we've done is set ourselves up with a quiet and focused workspace. The next thing we want to do, just like we did when we were in school, is preview the text. That includes us figuring out what is the genre of this text, what are the genre frames that will help me understand it as I read it, and we're also going to take a look at the title. So, what is the genre of this text? Now is your time to take a quick look through it to figure out what genre you think it is. As I scroll through, I see that there's a narrator, there are some other characters, and I see some dialogue as well. I don't see the typical text features of an informational text, such as subheadings and diagrams, so I'm thinking that this is a narrative text. So if this is a narrative text, what are those genre frames that are going to help us understand it as we read it? Just like we did when we were still in school, we pay attention to the characters, problem, solution, and lesson learned when we are reading a narrative or a fiction text. Who are the characters, and what am I learning about them? What is the problem? How does the problem evolve in the story? What is the solution, if there is one? And what is the lesson learned? What can we as readers take away from this story? Now that's a lot to keep track of as you're reading a text. So here's an example of a notes page that I set up as I was reading this text to help me figure out what I'm reading as I'm reading it. Notice I have the title of the text up top, my quick genre frames that I jotted on the top of the text when we were in class. I put that on my notes page as well. And then I created a section for each part of the genre frame, so I know to look for these things as I'm reading. For example, as soon as I come upon the characters, I'm going to list them right over here, as well as the problem, and so on. Go ahead and pause this video to take some time to set up your own notes page. Press play when you're ready to go. So as we read this text today, we want to keep this transferable takeaway in mind. Now normally it would say transferable takeaway up top, but we want you to remember that today and every day, or every time you read a text, these transferable takeaways will be a tool to help you understand what you're reading. So today and every day, as you read fiction texts, pay attention to the clues the author gives you about characters' points of view throughout the entire text, not just at the end. This will ensure you arrive at a point of view that reflects the entire text. So as you read the text today, paying attention to the clues the author gives you about a character's point of view is going to help you understand what we are reading, the lesson learned, and what we should be taking away from it. Woo! Congratulations! You have found our secret question. If you are seeing this page now, that means that you have been following the video all the way up until this point, listening to those very important directions, strategic reading plan, and our transferable takeaways. So go ahead and answer the secret question now. What is your favorite book ever? Think about any book that you have read since you were a child or maybe even up till recently. What is your favorite book ever? Once you got it, comment in the class comments section on the assignment in Google Classroom. So that spot under the assignment where it says add a comment, and sometimes people have been asking questions or commenting there, go ahead and write your favorite book ever. Nice job finding the secret question. So keeping our narrative genre frames in mind, let's get started with the reading. In this story, a weekend trip to a museum takes an unusual turn for the narrator and her friend. Museum from Honeybee by Naomi Ni Shihab. I was 17. My family had just moved to San Antonio. A local magazine featured an alluring article about a museum called the McNay, an old mansion once the home of an eccentric, many times married watercolorist named Marion Kugler McNay. She had deeded it to the community to become a museum upon her death. I asked my friend Sally, who drove a cute little convertible and had moved to Texas a year before we did, if she wanted to go there. Sally said, sure. She was a good friend that way. We had made up a few words in our own language and could dissolve into laughter just by saying them. Our mothers thought we were a bit odd. On a sunny Saturday afternoon, we drove over to Broadway. Sally asked, do you have the address of this place? No, I said. Just drive very slowly and I'll recognize it. There was a picture in the magazine. I peered in both directions and pointed, saying, there it is. Pull in. The parking lot under some palm trees was pretty empty. We entered, excited. The museum was free. Right away, the spirit of the arched doorways, carved window frames, and elegant artwork overtook us. Sally went left, I went right. A group of people, seated in some chairs in the lobby, stopped talking and stared at us. So now that we've finished that first paragraph, let's take a moment to stop and answer our first question. Something that's going to help us understand the text as we keep reading. Looking at your Google form now, the first question, who are the characters and what have we learned about them so far? Go ahead and pause the video, going back to the text, and answer this first question. Who are the characters and what have we learned about them so far? Nice job. Let's go back to the text and continue reading. Starting with the second paragraph now. May I help you? A man said. No, I said. We're fine. I didn't like to talk to people in museums. Tours and docents got on my nerves. What if they talked a long time about a painting you weren't that interested in? I took a deep breath, moved on to another painting. Fireworks over a patio in Mexico, maybe. There weren't very good tags in this museum. In fact, there weren't any. I stood back and gazed. Sally had gone upstairs. The people in the lobby had stopped chatting. They seemed very nosy, keeping their eyes on me with irritating curiosity. What was their problem? I turned down a hallway. Bougainvilleas and azaleas pressed up right against the windows. Maybe we should have brought a picnic. Where was the Moorish courtyard? I saw some nice sculptures in another room, and a small couch. This would be a great place for reading. Above the couch hung a radiant print by Paul Klee, my favorite artist, blues and pinks merging softly in his own wonderful way. I stepped closer. Suddenly, I became aware of a man from the lobby standing behind me in a doorway. Where do you think you are? He asked. I turned sharply. The McNay Art Museum. He smiled then and shook his head. Sorry to tell you, the McNay is 3 blocks over, on New Brunsfield Street. Take a right when you go out of our driveway, then another right. What is this place? I asked, still confused. He said, well, we thought it was our home. My heart jolted. I raced past him to the bottom of the staircase and called out, Sally, come down immediately. Urgent. So we just read some pretty important information about the problem in this story. Let's take a moment now to answer the second guiding question. What problem has emerged? Go ahead and pause the video. What problem has emerged? Alright, now that you've taken the time to notice what problem has emerged, Let's go back to the text and keep reading to see how that problem develops. We left off right here, with the narrator urgently calling her friend as she's realized what this museum really is. I remember being tempted to shout something in a private language, but we didn't have a word for this. Sally came to the top of the stairs smiling happily and said, "You have to come up here. There's some really good stuff. And there are old beds, too." "No, Sally, no," I said, as if she were a dog or a baby. "Get down here. Speed it up. This is an emergency." She stepped elegantly down the stairs as if in a museum trance, looking puzzled. I just couldn't tell her out loud in front of those people what we had done. I actually pushed her toward the front door, waving my hand at the family in the chairs, saying, "Sorry, oh my God, please forgive us. You have a really nice place." Sally stared at me in the parking lot. When I told her, she covered her mouth and doubled over with laughter, shaking. We were still in their yard. I imagined them inside, looking out the windows at us. She couldn't believe how long they let us look around without saying anything either. That was really friendly of them. "Get in the car," I said sternly. This is mortifying. The real McNay was fabulous, splendid, but we felt a little nervous the whole time we were there. Van Gogh, Picasso, Sameo. This time there were tags. This time we stayed together in case anything else weird happened. We never told anyone. Let's pause here to answer our third guiding question. Taking a look at the third question on your Google form, based on everything we just read, what is the narrator's point of view on the problem, and how is this different from her friend's point of view? There's a problem in the story, and the narrator and her friend have different points of view on it. What is the difference? Take a time now to go back to the text, pause the video, and answer this question. All right, nice job. Let's keep reading. We never told anyone. 30 years later, a nice-looking woman approached me in a public place. "Excuse me," she said. "I need to ask a strange question. Did you ever, by any chance, enter a residence long ago, thinking it was the McNay Museum?" 30 years later, my cheeks still burned. "Yes, but how do you know? I never told anyone." "That was my home. I was a teenager sitting with my family talking in the living room. Before you came over, I never realized what a beautiful place I live in. I'd never felt lucky before. You thought it was a museum. My feelings changed about my parents after that, too. They had good taste. I have always wanted to thank you." Now the problem has developed even more as we've met this other character again. Let's take a look at our fourth and final guiding question before we jot the main idea. As we do, I just want to remind us where we are in our strategic reading plan now. We had previewed the text before we read, and now we are reading and jotting the main idea. So every time that we have paused and you have answered a question on the Google form, that's helping you, as you read, jot key ideas. Notice that the questions we've been asking are very similar to the genre frames, helping us to understand the text as we go. Let's now answer that fourth key question that's going to help us notice the key ideas. Question number 4. How does the narrator's point of view on the problem in the story change after talking to this new character at the end? Hint, the new woman character at the end was a little girl in the house at the time that the narrator had entered it. So number 4, how does the narrator's point of view on the problem in the story change after talking to this new character at the end? Go ahead and pause the video to answer this question. Okay, so as we have read and followed the strategic reading plan, we noticed some very important things about this narrative text. We focused on the characters, the problem, the solution. And now is your time to think about what is a lesson learned from this text. So what can you take away based on what the characters, what happened to them, and what they might have learned from this text? Before you jot your main idea, remember that criteria for success. Your main idea should be accurate, use those genre frames to help guide you, contextualized, so there should be evidence from the text, and the deepest meaning, which would be the lesson learned for this narrative text. So go ahead and write your main idea below, and you can use this checklist to make sure you are including all those things as you go. Nice job today, guys, reading this awesome story. Can't wait to read some great main ideas.